Today's video is covering multiplying monomials. This should and could be page 48 in your interactive notebook. Our goal today will be to simplify monomials by multiplying. So let's figure out what a monomial is before we jump into some questions. So a monomial is a number, a variable, or a product of numbers and variables, and product is referring to the operation of multiplication. Can't spell it? Psych. Yes, I can. Monomials are one term, this is very important, one term, and do not include addition and subtraction. Terms are things that are being added and subtracted, and a monomial has neither of these operations. So its only operation is multiplication. So a couple of examples what monomials look like. One, it's a number, so the number 5 is a monomial because it's a number. Or another example could be x. X is a monomial because it is a variable. Or the product of numbers and variables, so maybe 6 times y squared. We've got a multiplication of the number and the variable. This fits the definition of monomials. Monomials can be very short, just like a number or just like a variable, or they can be very long with lots of multiplication involved. For example, 7y squared times 3x to the 5th times 5r to the 4th times t to the 3rd times negative 8 times negative 323. So everything here is being multiplied, so this constitutes as a monomial. An example of a counterexample, a non-example of a monomial, would be something like 7y squared plus 3x to the 5th plus 5r to the 4th. This is not a monomial. And the reason being, because of the operation's addition. Monomials are only things that are being multiplied. So let's go ahead and get into a couple examples. First question asks us to find the area. So today we're going to learn how to multiply these monomials in the context of finding area and volume of figures. So the first step here will be to identify the formula. If we are trying to find the area of this rectangle, we've got to know what the formula for a rectangle is. I'm going to go ahead and give you this formula now. So the formula for a rectangle is the length of the rectangle multiplied by the width of the rectangle. So we can go ahead and make one of these the length and one of these the width. It doesn't really matter which one you make the width or the length because you're multiplying them. And so I'm going a backwards way. Most of you guys would probably think that this is the length. Now I can go ahead and move into step 2, which is to input the information. So this information that we've identified into the formula that we're using for area. So when I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace L with 6x squared. And I'm going to replace W with 8x to the 9th. Now I can go ahead and simplify the product of these by grouping our coefficients and grouping our like bases. We're very familiar with how to do this from our exponent unit. So the coefficients here are 6 and 8, so I'm going to write those in front. So we got 6 times 8. And then our like bases here are x squared and x to the 9th that we can group right next to each other as well. Now we can go ahead and multiply the coefficients. So 6 times 8 is 42. And we can go ahead and multiply our bases, and we can use the product rule to do that. If the bases are the same, they're being multiplied, we can go ahead up and add the exponents. So x is being multiplied by itself a total of 11 times because it's being multiplied 2 here and 9 here. So total, we'd add them up to get 11. So our final answer here is 42x to the 11th power. That would be the area for this rectangle. Example number 2. So here it's asking us to find the area of this triangle. In order to do that, what we need is the formula for area for a triangle, and that is provided to you 1/2 multiplied by the base by the height. Or another way of thinking about this is the area is the base times the height divided by 2. These two formulas are the exact same, just two different ways of expressing it. So I'm going to go ahead and use the one on the right because it's easier for me to think about as I go through this problem. So we got to identify what the height is. That is a terrible color to do it. So our height right now is 5x to the third. And I don't know what I'm doing with the cubed. Totally just messed that up. So let's go to the base. Here we have the base. And now we're in white. We can't even write. Now that we've identified the two, we can go ahead and input that information into the formula. So here we have our base is 3x to the 8th power times our height, which is 5x to the 3rd power, and we're going to divide that by 2. Now we can go ahead and simplify by multiplying. So we're going to multiply right now our coefficients. Rearrange this so our coefficients are next to each other, and then our like bases like this over 2. Now we can multiply 3 times 5 is 15. X is being multiplied 8 times here, 11 or 3 times here. How many times total? We're going to add up the exponents to get 11. And then we are going to divide by 2. So 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. I know that because I used the calculator. X to the 11th would be our final answer. Now we could leave it like this as well because of the fraction. Since 2 doesn't go into 15 evenly, in Schoology we could type in 15x to the 11th over 2. These are two acceptable answers that will both be accepted in Schoology. Example number 3. So here we have a triangle and it's asking us to find the area, and we know that the area model for triangles is base times the height divided by 2. So I'm going to go ahead and identify what those are. Here we have the base. Here we have the height. Now I'm going to go ahead and input that into the formula. So we've got 7x to the 4th multiplied by 6x to the 3rd divided by 2. When I rearrange this, what I have is 7 times 6 times x to the 4th times x to the 3rd over 2. And then we have 42 x to the 7th over 2. And our final part will be to divide the coefficients. 42 divided by 2 is 21 x to the 7th. Example number 4. Okay, so now it's asking us to find the volume, not the area anymore. We've got a 3D figure. So the volume of a rectangle, and I'll go ahead and give you this, is the length, or the width, times the height, times the length, really in any order because they're all being multiplied. So let's go ahead and identify what's what. Here we have, let's make this the length, let's make this the height, and let's make this the width. If you label them a different way, essentially it doesn't really matter because you're going to multiply them all together anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up now. We've got our volume equaling 9v to the 3rd times 13v to the 5th times 15v squared. I'm going to go ahead and rearrange this now. My coefficients in front. 9 times 13 times 15 times v to the 3rd times v to the 5th times v squared. So what I did was looked at my coefficients. I moved all of those towards the front. and then I left my bases towards the end. Now I'm going to go ahead and multiply the coefficients. I'm obviously going to use a calculator for this because these are very large numbers. So we got 9 times 13 times 15. And we get 1,755. So 1,755 V. We've got 3 V's, 8 V's, 10 V's total being multiplied to itself. So we could say V to the 10th. This would be my final answer. In this monomial, we multiplied 3 things. Previous 3, we only multiplied 2. Last example for today, says find the volume, and this figure right here is a cube. So the volume for a cube is one side cubed. So obviously it gives us one of the sides. We know that cubes have equal sides. So we're going to input that into the formula. So we've got our volume here equals 3x to the 6th power, all taken to the 3rd power. So we're going to use the power rule here. Distribute that power. So we got 1 times 3 and 6 times 3. So 3 to the 3rd times 6 times 3. 3 to the 3rd is 27 times x to the 18th. And we can finally write that without the dot. So our volume here is 27x to the 18th. Good luck on the homework. Feel free to message your classmates or I in Schoology if you have any questions.